Going down this weekend, we have UFC 316, Dvalishvili versus O'Malley 2. Woohoo! Man, can't you feel the hype in the air for this one? What a highly anticipated rematch this is that everyone for months has just been, we've all been on edge, cannot wait for this fight. And look, man, I'm obviously joking. This is not the fight that, as fight fans, we wanted to see right now. We wanted to see O'Malley versus Sandhagen. We wanted to see O'Malley versus Jan, something like that, before O'Malley got back in the title conversation. But I've said this time and time again. While I don't think that this is the fight that should be happening, it is still a very interesting style clash because we know what Merab brings to the table. We know what Sean brings to the table. Sean says he has all these adjustments that he's going to make. The good thing about the fight game, the truth will tell come fight night on Saturday. And I think it is going to be a similar fight, but yet very different at the same time. So I'm excited to break it down and discuss it because, like I said, stylistically, I think that it is a very intriguing fight. In the co-main event between Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison, I think that that is a very interesting matchup because we know what Juliana brings to the table. We know what Kayla brings to the table, but there are some questions that I have looming over that fight that I'm going to be very interested to see how they play out come fight night. And then we have the highly anticipated UFC debut of Patchy Mix getting thrown in there against Mario Bautista. Some very interesting fights on this card. While I don't think that it is the greatest pay-per-view we've seen, I think that this is a solid overall card. I'm excited for it. Let's hop into this, and I'm going to be breaking down every single fight on the card and giving my prediction. Let's hop into it straight away with Khaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. Interesting fight here because Khaos Williams, he was planning on this event, and now we have enter Andreas Gustafsson, who he was supposed to be fighting in the Apex this past weekend, right? He was supposed to be fighting Trevin Giles, and that fell apart, and whenever you have a fighter cut weight twice, I just don't like that, right? So that immediately to me is a red flag coming into this fight. But let's pretend that, we can't pretend that that didn't happen because I do think that that's a factor. But what we can approach this fight as is this is going to be an interesting matchup because Andreas, this is the UFC debut that we've been waiting for. He went out there on the Contender Series and just brutalized Pat. And now it's been almost a year since we've seen Gustafsson make this debut. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for this because I've always said Andreas, to me, he's a throwback fighter. He has that OG type of style. He's going to move forward. He does not care about getting hit. He's aggressive. He wants to get to the pocket. He wants to get into the clinch, let those knees and elbows go, wants to take you down and put you in this blender of this just absolute chaos when it comes to just getting in your face, making it very uncomfortable. That's what Andreas is going to look to do. I don't think that he's fought somebody like Khaos Williams, man. And listen, I don't think that Khaos is the most technical fighter that we've seen in the welterweight division, but he's got dangerous power. He throws these big looping ooga booga shots, but if they land, he's got some devastating power. He's got a nice calf kick from the outside, and he has the UFC experience on his side. And I think Trevin Giles was going to be an interesting matchup for Gustafsson because of the range and the jab of Giles. But I see something kind of similar here with Khaos Williams. Like, I know that Khaos is coming off of a loss, which I saw this coming against Gabriel Bonfim, but that's Gabriel Bonfim. That is a really, really dangerous opponent right there. And then before that, we saw him KO Harris. We saw him go out there and beat Bedoya. We saw him lose to Randy Brown. That's a tricky matchup. But we know Khaos Williams has power. We know he's game. He could, throw those low kicks from the outside. He's got decent boxing. He gets a little bit reckless for my liking, which I think could be an issue coming into this. I don't like the double weight cut for Andreas. I don't like this matchup against Khaos because, yeah, I think it's a fun fight for the fans, but in terms of Andreas getting a win, I don't think that this is as favorable as those other matchups that the UFC was looking at for him. I think Khaos Williams gets this thing done, man. And I think that, honestly, I think he finds a finish in this. I think someone gets finished, right? If Andreas can get to the inside, he can take away, the explosiveness of Khaos Williams because this is going to have to get to the floor for Andreas to win this, or into the clinch, into the phone booth, because on the outside, I think Khaos Williams wins this fight all day long. And like I said before, man, Khaos is not the most polished fighter, but he is game. You know what he's going to bring to the table. And while he doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, I do believe that it is decent enough to stop what Andreas is going to bring to the table because Andreas gets hit, man. His defense is not particularly good. Like I said, he's a throwback fighter. He's fun. He's exciting. But if you're going to try to be fun and exciting and just move forward and be willing to eat big shots to close the distance, I think that's going to be an issue against a guy like Chaos Williams, who's been in there with some good competition and has been landing on those guys. If he lands on Andreas, I think it's going to be a problem. I'm going Chaos Williams to get this one done by finish. Maybe he wins a decision. I could see this going either way. Don't like the double weight cut, and I think that this is a tough fight for Andreas in his debut. Moving on, we have Markel Mederos versus Mark Choinski. Now, this was a fight put together here at the last minute. Markel was supposed to be fighting at the Apex this past weekend as well. And look, man, I think Markel Mederos is a very underrated fighter. And I know that people are kind of starting to come around to the idea of how good this guy is. And he's got a really clean jab. He's got good striking from the outside. He utilizes footwork really well. He's got good feints. He twitches the hip. He kind of shows you the hands, and then he just pops the jab out there. And I like everything that we have seen from Markel Mederos throughout his career so far. Now, what does concern me here, right, because we saw him come into the UFC, beat Landon Quiones on the Contender Series, got that nasty knee finish over Isakov, but he's coming off of that split decision win over Austin Hubbard. And what I didn't like on the side of Mederos is how he does have pretty decent grappling of his own. But if you can take him down and control him, I feel like that is going to be a weakness that could plague Mederos moving forward in his career. Now, we have a debuting Mark Choinski who does have a solid wrestling background. We've seen over in APFC, this guy has good submissions, man. If he can take you down, get into dominant positions, and you let this guy work, he could get you up out of there. The problem is I think that this is a solid step up in competition for Mark here. And Mark has very, very good wrestling, right? He trains over at Rufus Sport. He's got a good camp and all those kinds of things. But I think that this is a tough debut for him, man. I think that this is a tough debut. And I think Mederos didn't fight at the Apex this past weekend because I think he was sick or something. So hopefully, he will be all right coming into this fight. But assuming that he is going to be okay, I think that Markel Mederos gets this thing done. I'm going to say that he outscores Mark and wins this fight because while Mark does have good wrestling, we don't see him use it a whole lot, right? He kind of just stands on the feet, tries to move forward and get into these striking exchanges where if he does not threaten the grappling in this matchup, I don't think he wins this fight at all. I think he gets absolutely picked apart by Mederos on the outside. And even if he does try to close the distance and get this fight to the floor, I don't see him just controlling and working Mederos when it comes to that. So I'm going to go with Markel Mederos to get this done. I think he outscores him, keeps this at range, gets the jab popping, and I think that this is a hard debut fight for Mark here. I got Mederos getting it done, but I do think Mark can be solid in the UFC, but this is a tough ask coming in here against Mederos, who I think is a very underrated fighter in the lightweight division. Moving on, we have Quillan Salkilld versus Yanal Ashmouz. I like this fight here, man. I like this fight. I think that this is a very interesting style matchup. And to me, I know that Quillan Salkilld it feels like he's going to be a big favorite coming into a lot of his fights moving forward, right? He is just a very, very game opponent, man. He is, 6 foot, got a 75-inch reach in the lightweight division, got a solid frame for this weight class. He's rangy. He's dangerous on the feet. I like his boxing, the way, he digs to the body, mixes his shots. He's got some good kicks. And what I like about Quillan, he knows that guys are probably going to try to take him down, right? And I think that he's got a slick submission game of his own. He has decent takedown defense. What we've seen throughout his career, even before the UFC, this dude's got some nasty power. We all know that. But if you want to entertain the grappling, he will find a submission like we saw him do against Dom. But he goes on the Contender Series, gets the decision nod over Gage Young, and he's coming off of a beautiful KO over Anshul Jubilee. But again, like we all know, Jubilee's not that good, man. He's not that good. So, yeah, it was an impressive KO, and it was incredible how fast he was able to get it. So I put more value in that than him KOing Jubilee, which I don't think means a ton. But the way he did it so fast, I think that is very, very impressive. I like Quillan Salkilld, man. He is dangerous. He's fun to watch. This is a tricky matchup, though, because Yanal Ashmouz, it's been a little while since we've seen him, right? He went out there and beat Trevor Peek, but Ashmouz has a tough style, I think, that could present some issues here for Quillan Salkilld because Ashmouz does have some hammers in his hands, right? I think that he is a dangerous guy on the feet. I don't think he's the most dangerous striker in the division. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that if you overlook his striking, you could find yourself in some trouble. But we've seen throughout his career, this loss to Chris Duncan hasn't aged too terribly, right? But what we've seen from him, the way he was able to KO Sam Patterson, that was incredibly impressive because we've seen Sam Patterson go on a nice nice little run here. And then prior to the UFC fighting over in PFL, we know what Yanal is going to do. He's going to move forward. He's going to look to utilize the boxing to set up the takedowns, get to those entries, take you down, and look to try to beat you up, find a submission, something like that. But I just see that, I think he's outgunned here, man. I think that when you look at the height advantage, you see that Salkild's a little bit taller. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. So it's going to be on Ashmouz to try to pressure him, close the gap, and that's going to be, I just think that that's a problem, man. I think Salkilld is probably the smoothest guy that Yanal has faced in terms of the striking since he's been in the UFC. I think Salkilld has a very, very polished style. I don't like this fight for Yanal, man. I think Yanal is a very underrated fighter. I've said that a lot. I've picked him to win a lot of his fights, man. But I just think that this is a problem here. And I think he's going to get KO'd. I think he's going to get finished by Quillin in this fight. Maybe Salkilld just outpoints him. Maybe Ashmouz goes in there. He's able to get the takedowns, and Quillin doesn't have an answer for that. I just find it hard to believe, man. From what we've seen from Quillin, the boxing is sharp. The kicks are good. He's hard to close the gap on. And if you do, he seems to find those shots on guys when they get desperate to close range. I think that Salkilld finds a shot and puts Yanal out of there. But if Ashmouz could get to the grappling, I think that he could find a way to get it done. But I like Salkilld, man. I think he's dangerous. I think he's sharp. Tough fight here for Yanal Ashmouz. Moving on, we have Azamat Murzakonov versus Brendason Ribiero. Not much to break down here. Listen, Azamat Murzakonov, it's been kind of a series of things of him not being able to be super active inside the octagon. But when this guy shows up, he is what I have labeled a dark horse inside of the light heavyweight division. If you've seen my dark horse video, this guy is dangerous, man. He is ferocious. He's well-rounded, and on the feet, he is a serious issue for just about everybody in this weight class. He is fast, he's nimble, and he has devastating knockout power. He's got power in that left hand. He's got power in his right hand. He is just overall, everything is speed and power for a guy of this size, man. And he just, to me, is an absolute freak inside this weight class. And we saw in the Contender Series that brutal finish over Mateos. Goes out there, brutally finishes Tafon. Goes out there, destroys Devin Clark. Wins a decision over Dustin Jacoby, which we've seen how good Dustin Jacoby's looked, right? He's had this nice little resurgence. I saw that coming a mile away, him finishing Bruno Lopez and then going out there and starching Vitor Petrino. So look how well that win is aged. Then he goes out there and makes Alonzo Menafield look like he's never even fought before. Like, that is how good Azamat Murzakonov is. And look, Ribiero, he's solid, right? We've seen that he has good submission skills. I think he's going to try to desperately shoot for takedowns to get this fight to the floor, but good luck, because Murzakonov, I think he can stuff the takedowns. And we've seen, if you can get to Brendason Ribiero, if you can back him up and you can put that pressure on him like Zhang Minyang did, it's going to be a serious problem. And he comes over, on the Contender Series, gets a nice finish win over Bruno Lopez. Azamat Murzakonov is a serious issue, man. I think that he is able to get Brendason Ribiero out of there in the very first round. Murzakonov, this is a guy that I've been super high on. Whenever we could get him in there, get him active, get him rolling. This isn't some 36-year-old guy who's undefeated. Well, he is 36 and he is undefeated, but he's not just some undefeated prospect or something. This guy is a seasoned pro at this point. He's dangerous. He's powerful. He's a serious problem for everyone in the light heavyweight division. I think Azamat Murzakonov finds a brutal, I think he flatlines Brendason for a performance of the night type of bonus here. I got Azamat getting it done by brutal first round finish. Moving on, we have Ju Sang Yu versus Jeka Saragih. I'm not pronouncing that right, but listen, the bottom line is that there ain't much to break down here. Look, Jeka, he's someone that's going to move forward. He's got power. We've seen that, right? He's kind of a do-or-die type of fighter, but these two losses, I just can't overlook them. Got subbed by Weston Wilson and then got finished by Anshul Jubilee. Now, I think that Jubilee gets a lot of hate, to be, that isn't exactly, he's like kind of overhated to a degree. He's not like a super awful fighter, but those two losses, given what we've seen in the UFC, like in terms of the caliber, those guys are not top of the heap, and they aren't guys that are going to go very far in the UFC. Lipski, and he goes out there and does get the finish win over Lucas Alexander. He's got hammers in his hands. If you want to get reckless up against the fence or in the pocket with Jeka, he can find that shot and knock you out without question. But it ain't happening, man. It ain't happening. Ju Sang Yu, this dude, he's got something special, man. He's 31 years of age coming over to the UFC. His most recent outing, he went out there on the Korean Zombies promotion. And if you didn't see Looking for a Fight where Dana White, they were watching this guy's special. He comes out, fight starts, throws a beautiful spinning back kick right to the breadbasket. His style reminds me very like Conor McGregor combined with Alex Pineda. He's kind of got those hands out there, his kind of, McGregor-like movements, but kind of stalks you down with his hands down like Pineda. He's got some power. He's dynamic, and he is a finisher, man. And that's what we've seen from him. He has the ability to go, the full distance. He has power in his hands. He's got power in his kicks, and he does have a solid ground game as well. I like everything about you here. I think that he is going to get this done by finish. I'm going to say that he finds a finish in the second round. Maybe he just outpoints Jeka here, but he's got to be careful, right? Because Yu likes to drop his hands as he starts to get into the flow of things. He'll push you up against the fence. He gets real comfortable. I could see Jeka landing a big shot. I just think that there's levels here. I think that Yu is someone who's going to compete in the UFC here, to where Jeka, it's kind of just been hot and cold, fumbling around against Weston Wilson and Anshul Jubilee. I think that Yu would knock those guys out or beat those guys. I got Yu getting this thing done. I think that he is a very talented guy to keep your eye on. Moving on, we have Sergey Spivac versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Interesting fight here because Sergey Spivac, I feel like he's someone that he gets to the top of the division, right? So he loses to Cyril Gane, okay, top of the weight class. Then he loses to Jailton Almeida, top of the weight class, really hard guy to deal with. But he beats the Marcin Tybura's. He beats the Derek Lewis's. He beats the Augusta Sakai's. He beats those kinds of guys, man, those middle-of-the-road heavyweights. And what we're going to find out in this fight, is Waldo a middle-of-the-road heavyweight? Or is he a guy that is going to be in the top of the heap talking about a guy that is going to be fighting for titles? We're going to find out. But what I've seen so far from Waldo Cortes-Acosta, he's getting taken down by Rogerio de Lima. He's getting controlled. He's getting kicked, right? We saw him against Lucas Bresky, goes out there, gets the finish. We saw him beat Andrei Arlovsky to where I hated this fight. This actually made me not like Waldo Cortes-Acosta for a while there because he was taunting Arlovsky, just a legend of the sport, but also a guy that's way over the hill, right? He was acting like he was in there, in a title fight or something, stunting on somebody, so he pissed a lot of people off with this. Then he goes out there, wins a decision over Rebellis Despain. Despain was a guy that couldn't grapple, right? He had he was a huge guy for the division, right? He was a massive heavyweight that stood out, right? He's got crazy power, super dynamic, but had zero grappling. So Cortes-Acosta just waved him on, was taunting him. He threw a big shot, dip underneath, take him down. Then he goes out there and KOs Ryan Spann. So here's the deal. Cortes-Acosta, he's faster. He's got better striking. He has the ability to finish the fight on the feet. He's got the footwork, and he is a fast, nimble guy for the heavyweight division. But if you're getting taken down by Rogerio de Lima, if you're getting taken down by some of these other guys, I think that that's going to be a problem because while Spivac may not be the most nimble guy in this weight class, while he may never be a champion in the division, he's game, man. He's got good grappling. His takedown entries are nice. His striking is serviceable enough to set those up. And if he gets you to the floor, it is a problem. He's not some guy that's just holding you down, and just looking to win on minutes. He will find a submission. And that's what we've seen from him, right? We saw him. He's got good ground and pound. We saw that against Sakai. We saw him sub Derek Lewis. And then we saw him sub Marcin Tybura, who just beat Mick Parkin, right? So we've seen that Spivac can get it done. I think he finds a submission here. I'm going to say first round. I think that Waldo Cortes-Acosta comes in kind of cocky. He's on a nice win streak here. He's not going to respect the striking of Spivac to where Sergey's able to get him down, soften him up with some elbows, and get to a position and find a submission here. I'm going to say Sergey Spivac gets this done. But if he can't get the takedowns and he's stuck on the feet, of course, it's going to be a problem. Cortes-Acosta is much better than him when it comes to the striking. He's got more power there. He's faster, and maybe the movement will show to be some sort of issue. But I haven't seen enough in terms of the takedown defense from Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Spivac's not just going to stand in front of him and try to play some sort of kickboxing fight here. If he does, he's definitely going to lose. I don't think that happens. I think Spivac fights intelligently here, gets him down, finds a submission. I like Sergey to get this one done. Moving on, we have Ariana Lipski de Silva versus Kong Wang. Bang Bang Wang, as I like to call her, man. Listen, I've been high on Bang Bang Wang ever since she come into the UFC, right? She's, kickboxed with Valentina Shevchenko, and, she's gotten the W there. And ever since she's came into the UFC, she's been something that just seems special, right? She goes out there and brutally KOs Victoria Leonardo, and it felt like everything was going her way to where she was going to be this massive star in WMMA. And then she gets checked by Gabriela Fernandez. She got, hit with a head kick, dropped, and then got finished with a submission. Then she got back on track. Seemed like she was a little bit cautious out there against Bruno Brazil, given that she got finished the fight before that. But I think that we see Bang Bang Wang open up again. Like, I think Ariana Lipski, don't sleep on her. She has pretty solid striking. We've seen that in her career. We saw that against JJ Aldrich. Again, not a very good opponent. She beat Melissa Gatto by split decision. She got the submission victory over Casey O'Neill, but she's coming off of 2 L's, right? She lost to Corinne Silva. She got subbed by Jasmine Jasdavicius. Not bad there. We all know how good Jasmine is at this point. Ariana Lipski maybe is the more balanced fighter here. She does have submissions in her back pocket, but it's going to be hard to get to take Bang Bang Wang down. I don't think it's as easy as just bull rushing her, overwhelming her with volume, getting to a level change, taking her down. I just don't see that being that easy to do against Bang Bang Wang. And if you're just standing in front of Wang for 15 minutes here, I think that that's just a hard ask for Ariana Lipski. I know that Lipski does have pretty solid striking. I think she's a little underrated there, but I don't like this matchup for her in terms of the power that Wang possesses. I think that Bang Bang Wang finds a KO in this matchup. I think that she has her confidence back. She got upset, tasted that a little bit there. Then she goes out there against Bruno Brazil, got 15 minutes of work in. I think she comes out here, and if Ariane does not look for the level change and this fight plays out on the feet, she is going to be in some serious trouble because of the power that Kong possesses. I got Wang getting this one done by finish. Maybe she just outpoints her and wins a decision. I'm all in on Bang Bang Wang, man. I think she's very skilled. Moving on, we have Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. Interesting fight here because Bruno Silva, he's coming off of what was a flow state Manel Kape back at UFC Tampa, to where that night it looked like Manel Kape could be the flyweight champion. He looked absolutely spectacular, and it looked like Kape could have beaten anyone that night, right? So I take this matchup here with a little bit of a grain of salt. Now, I will say this. What we've seen so far from Bruno Silva, he is a devastating puncher in the flyweight division. He's a guy that has power that stands out in this weight class. And we saw that against Cody Durden, and we saw against Tyson Nam. If the fight hits the floor, this guy's a finisher, man. Bruno Silva's not coming in here to mess around and try and point his way to a decision. He looks for finishes. We saw that against Victor Rodriguez. We saw that against JP Bays. He's got devastating power, and if the fight hits the floor, he is a live submission threat. He is a very, very dangerous opponent. And what I don't like about this fight for Joshua Van, I really like Josh Van, man. I think that he is a super talented and skilled guy in this weight class. I've picked him, I think, every fight since he's been in the UFC. He got humbled a little bit there by Charles Johnson to where he got finished in the 3rd round, but we saw Johnson just hit a gear as the fight played out. He just got better as the fight went. But before that, we saw what he was able to do to Felipe. We saw him go out there on short notice and beat Edgar Chairez, which was very impressive. He beat Cody Durden, and he's coming off of a win that I said I never understood the matchmaking here with Ray Saruya, but I always thought that this was a fight that was going to serve very well for Van moving forward, given that he's 23 years of age, doesn't have a ton of experience per se, still super young in the sport, going in there against a very skilled grappler that was just going to look to take him down the whole fight. So I think that all of the experience that Van has to this point is going to serve him very well as he's getting in there with these tougher fights, because people, I think, are really overlooking Bruno Silva in this matchup, because Joshua Van, as good of a boxer as he is, I think that he's probably the best boxer in the weight class. I think the way he rips to the body, the way he brings those hooks upstairs, he is a super well-rounded fighter. His takedown defense is really improved, and not just the takedown defense, but the fact that when he does get taken down, he pops right back to his feet. And now when he's out in space, he sees the shots coming a lot better than what he did earlier in his career. And I think Bruno Silva, if he could get into the pocket and try to turn this into a dirty boxing type of fight, he could land a shot and get Joshua Van out of there. So in terms of a finish, I could see Bruno Silva finding some sort of shot or something because he definitely has the ability to hurt Joshua Van. But I'm not going to pick against Joshua Van, man. I like everything that I have seen from him so far in the UFC. At only 23 years of age, he's growing up before our eyes in this sport, and he is improving every single time we see him compete. I love the boxing, the takedown defense, his eyes for seeing the takedowns and being able to anticipate the shots. And if he does get taken down, not spending a ton of time on the floor. He has urgency to get back to his feet. I think that his boxing and timing wins him this fight with his speed, getting in and out of range. I like Joshua Van outboxing Bruno Silva here and winning a decision. But again, got to be careful because Silva does have some devastating knockout power. Moving on to the matchup that to me is just something I've been really back and forth on here, and that is Mario Bautista versus Patchy Mix. Now we're getting into the crazy ones, man. I've been watching Patchy Mix for a while, right? A lot of fight fans are only fans of the UFC. They don't really watch maybe Bellator, PFL, and these other promotions, and Patchy Mix is as good as advertised, right? He's not some guy that's coming over from PFL or Bellator at, where he's almost 40 and it seems like he's over the hill. That's not Patchy Mix. This is a guy that is very much in the prime of his career. He's almost 32 years of age. He's 20-1 as a pro, and he is a very, very dangerous submission ace. This guy is tremendous, man. If you go back and watch some of these fights, Kyoji Horiguchi, that is a very hard guy to deal with, right? So he went out there and was able to outscore him. Then he goes in there against Magomed Magomedov, who, if you know anything about Bellator, this guy's game, man. He's got good grappling. He's good on the feet. He is a hard puzzle to deal with. Patchy Mix subbed him, right? So that shows you what he's about there. Then he goes out there and KOs Rafion Stotts, who for a while there, I think that he's UFC caliber. I think Stotts is a very game opponent. He's got good wrestling, good striking as well. Then he goes out there and subs Sergio Pettis. We know how good Sergio Pettis is. Then he comes off of a split decision victory over Magomed Magomedov as they run that one back. And look, so he's faced a very good grappler in Magomedov, right? So there's that element of this. But this is a very hard fight, in my opinion, for Patchy Mix because I don't think that Patchy is particularly good on the feet. I think that he is not good on the feet really at all, to be honest. I know that he's got decent hands. He's got some decent kicks from the outside, but to me, he just never looks super comfortable. I know he's got, we saw him land that knee, and yeah, he's decent on the feet, but I think that Mario Bautista is way ahead of him in terms of the striking, and I know that he was public enemy number one after he went out there and pushed Jose Aldo up against the fence and made it this dirty, boring type of fight that just had everyone hating the guy, right? And I feel like a lot of people, they just are hoping that Mario loses here because of, what went down against Jose Aldo. And I get it, right? Because that was a pretty disgraceful performance. But don't forget about what this guy has done, right? He went out there and he beat Ricky Simón, and we saw Ricky Simón just come off of a, amazing KO victory, right? Ricky Simone's not a scrub. Goes out there, beats Damon Blackshear. Is Blackshear not a very game submission threat? Southpaw guy with a, not exactly the same style, but something similar to a Patchy Mix, right? I'm not saying he's patchy, but that's a pretty similar matchup there. Then goes out there, gets the submission victory over Canetti. Then we saw him sub Benito Lopez. And I know people are going to reference the Corey Sandhagen loss and some of these different things with Bautista. This is a guy that has grown up in the UFC the past few years. And I think Patchy Mix could very well go out there, show people that he is as good as advertised. And I think Patchy Mix is very, very good. I think he's very, very good. He's got good submissions. And I think that he is super dangerous. But the problem is I feel like Mario can stop the grappling of Patchy Mix. Like, what's Patchy going to do, right? On terms of the striking, I think Mario's much better. Mario has power, right? I know that he's not out there KOing everybody, but if you overlook his striking, he's got power. He will take one to give one. And does Patchy have the power to worry Mario? No, I don't think so, right? And we know how good of a striker Jose Aldo is. Bautista just pushed him up against the fence. Bautista's a solid guy for the weight class in terms of his stature. Right, I know that Patchy Mix is a little bit taller here. He has a slight reach advantage, but like I said, he's not particularly good on the feet. Right, maybe he's able to get a hold of him and get in the clinch, take this fight to the floor, and if it does happen, the way that he gets to your back and the way that he, can lock in a rear naked choke, he can do it like that. Right, Patchy Mix is as good as it gets, man, but I just feel like something's telling me Mario Bautista wins this fight. Something tells me that Mario wins this fight by decision. I think that there's a good shot that, yes, Patchy Mix, I know he's very, very good. I want to see him in the UFC here against, what I think is one of the most loaded divisions in terms of talent. We've known that for a while with the bantamweight division. I think Bautista's a hard fight for him. I really believe that. And I think, like I said, sure, Patchy could go out there, they get it, he could get the takedowns, he could turn this into a grappling, fest and find a submission in the process of that. But Bautista's good, man. He is good, and I feel like this is a win-win for the UFC. It's like, okay, we can punish Mario for going out there and stinking it up against Aldo. People can't stand him now. We give him Patchy Mix, and this gives Mix the chance to show he's as good as advertised, or he's not ready for the top of, bantamweight division in the UFC here, or it's a big win, for Mario Bautista, or if Mix can get the win over Bautista, it's like, boom, now we got a fresh contender inside the bantamweight division. Something's telling me that Mario Bautista wins this fight. I think Patchy's very capable of getting it done. He has excellent jiu-jitsu skills. His grappling is very, very high level. What does it look like against the UFC caliber opponent? I know that Magomedov's very good. He is very, very good. He is, right? I know he caught him in that guillotine there, but then when they ran it back, it was very close. It was very close. This is a 15-minute fight here. 15 minutes to work with. We've seen Bautista's very strong in the clinch. We've seen that his grappling, it's very, very solid, right? He's got good submissions of his own. His takedown ability, defense on his side is also very good. And if it plays out on the feet, Bautista's a better striker. He is, man. So if they get into a grappling match, Patchy can win it. If Bautista avoids that, I think he wins. I think his striking is better. I think that he has the takedown defense to stop what Patchy's going to do. I don't think Patchy troubles him on the feet. Give me Mario Bautista to get this one done by decision. But again, maybe Patchy just is that good. But again, we've seen these guys come over from PFL Bellator, and a lot of them win their debuts. Like Michael Chandler won his. MVP won his. We've seen that. But we've also seen Patricio Pitbull, right? And I know that he's later in his career, and he came over, and he had a hard matchup, right? And I know, Pitbull was, 38? And Yair is super dangerous. Bautista's dangerous in the bantamweight division too. He's been on a hot streak, man. He's made a lot of improvements. He's got a good camp over at MMA Lab, right? This guy's good, man. Whether you like Mario Bautista or not, I know that his last performance was an absolute stinker, and it had everybody pissed off, including me. But put the hate to the side. Patchy Mix is good. He's got good submissions. If he doesn't find a submission in this fight, Bautista outscores him. And if anyone's getting a KO, I think it's Mario Bautista. So you're basically banking on what I think is a Patchy Mix submission. Again, very good submissions. Don't know if he's good enough to beat Mario Bautista, who is becoming a super well-rounded threat in the bantamweight division. I got Mario Bautista getting this one done, but going to be an interesting fight to see if Patchy is just that good and can hang with the UFC caliber. Moving on, we have Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. I feel like we all at this point have learned our lesson with Kevin Holland, and that is the fact that you just don't know what to expect when this guy fights. Well, what I mean by that is we do know what to expect, which is we don't know what to expect when Kevin Holland fights. If he shows up and looks like he's the hungry, motivated Kevin Holland, he could go out there and be not a champion in the welterweight division, but I think he could make the top 10. I think Kevin Holland could get close to the top 10, if not break into the top 10. I think that would kind of be his ceiling in the welterweight division. But he is unbelievably rangy for this weight class. He's 6'3", has an 81-inch reach, so he's going to have, a 5-inch reach advantage. He's going to have the height advantage here over Luque, which isn't a huge deal, right? Because I don't think Kevin Holland fights very well behind his range. He kind of has these slappy little kicks out there that don't do a lot of damage. The most dangerous thing about Kevin Holland is that sniper right hand that he likes to throw. When's the last time that we've seen Kevin Holland start somebody with that right hand, right? It's been a while, right? We saw him do it to Joaquin Buckley, and yeah, he went out there and he proved me wrong, right? I didn't think he was going to beat Gunnar Nelson, but again, Nelson's a guy who he's super inactive throughout his career, right? So that was I even said that was a very winnable fight for Kevin Holland, even though I picked Gunnar Nelson to win. Anybody that has a grappling threat is going to be a problem for Kevin Holland at 185 pounds, right? What we've seen from Kevin Holland is when he faces these bigger guys like an RDR, when he faces a Roman Dolidze, when he faces, the MVP was, a hard matchup for him. We saw him, sub Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, but he got dropped. Remember that, right? But again, at middleweight, Kevin Holland, he struggled with these bigger, while he's a tall, rangy guy at middleweight, he struggles with the big, bulky guys that are just able to manhandle him in terms of the strength. That doesn't happen to Kevin Holland at welterweight. It just doesn't. But again, Kevin Holland, a lot of his best welterweight wins, a lot of them are coming over these guys that are like older, guys that aren't necessarily in their prime anymore. And you could argue that Vicente Luque is not necessarily in his prime anymore. I know that he's almost 34 years of age and he's been hot and cold. And this loss here to Joaquin Buckley was about as bad of a look as you could have in the UFC, man. It looked like he just gave up in there against Joaquin Buckley. And I don't like to throw that around too lightly, man, but it did. He shelled up and it just looked like something happened and he's just like, get me out of here, right? So that was not a good look. But then he comes out there and people are like, look, Luque's done, man. He just looks like he's kind of had his time and that's it. Goes out there and says, not so fast, man. I'm going to make easy work of Themba Gorimbo, who wasn't a slouch. Guy with good power, pretty solid fighter, but we know what Vicente Luque brings to the table. He has dangerous jiu-jitsu skills, excellent submissions, and on the feet, he is very, very hittable. He's got that Muay Thai style, that high guard, good low kicks, decent boxing. He's very good offensively, right, with the striking, but defensively, that's where he runs into some problems. We saw that against Jeff Neal, and we've seen that if you can put a pace and pressure on him like Bilal Muhammad, you can run Luque into some issues. I think that this is a very interesting fight here. I think that, to me, this is actually a toss-up. I know that people are kind of leaning one way or the other here because Kevin Holland at welterweight, he is really good. He seems like, for the most part, he wins against almost everybody he fights at welterweight, right? But again, Vicente Luque, I don't think that he's like necessarily in his prime, but I don't think he's far out of it. He's dangerous. He's a guy that got his confidence back against Themba Gorimbo. I think that Vicente Luque submits Kevin Holland. I think he does, man, and I think that it comes later in the fight. I think that we're going to see Kevin Holland look good early on. Maybe Luque struggles to close the distance and be able to get a hold of him, but Luque has the striking to be able to worry Kevin Holland. That's the difference in this matchup. Like, if the fight hits the floor, yeah, I know Kevin Holland's a black belt under Travis Lutter, and it sounds impressive, but if you can get Kevin Holland down, yeah, he's got a decent guard, especially when he's at welterweight, right? That's kind of the big thing here is at welterweight, Kevin Holland's a decent grappler, offensively and defensively. But in this fight, Luque's the better grappler. He's got the better jiu-jitsu skills on the feet. I think he's actually the more polished striker. The problem is Luque's defense lets him down. He does not move his head. He's almost like a moving heavy bag out there because he doesn't move his head at all. Keeps it on the center line the whole time to where I could see Kevin Holland catching him with the right hand and hurting him. But we saw what Gunnar Nelson was able to do. Even though Holland was able to win that fight, and I was pretty impressed by Holland in that matchup, I think Vicente Luque would beat Gunnar Nelson right now, and I think he could finish him, right? So if you take, I know MMA math doesn't always work like that, but if Luque implements a similar game plan, I think that he can go out there and beat Kevin Holland. But I'm expecting a hard fight. I'm expecting a competitive fight. But I think Luque, I think he's got this new motivation to him, man. I think that he's got this second win to him coming into this. I think he's ready to go on a run. I know the welterweight division is super stacked. I don't think he's going to win the title or anything like that. Kevin Holland's a winnable fight for him, and then the other way around. This is a very close fight. I got Vicente Luque getting it done, though, because I just don't trust Kevin Holland, man. I just can't trust him. I can't trust him. He's liable to go in there and just starch Luque and make it look easy. Or he goes in there and gets embarrassed. Or it's a dogfight, right? That's kind of how it goes. And I guess you could say the same for Luque right after that Buckley loss. I like Vicente Luque. He's one of my favorite welterweights that we've seen, and I think that his striking is good. I think that he can trouble Holland on the feet. He has very good submissions to where if the fight does hit the floor, it's going to be a problem for Kevin. Give me Vicente Luque to get this one done. But like I said, I expect it to be competitive. Moving on, we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. This fight was supposed to happen back on the fight night that took place in Mexico, and I think Joe Pyfer got food poisoning or something like that, and he's kind of been in the headlines because he was pissed off in Mexico and all these different things or whatever he was saying. The bottom line is this. I tell you guys this all the time, man. Joe Pyfer, we had a couple guys from the gym that were fighting on some cards up there in PA, Art of War, which is the promotion that Joe had a lot of his regional pro fights on. This guy is different when he hits people, man. He just is. And I know that he lost to Jack Hermanson, right? Which, again, I said that was a bad decision by the UFC to make that a 5-round fight. That if that was 3 rounds, Joe Pyfer wins, right? The experience and the savviness of Jack Hermanson took over as the fight played out. But then he went out there and starched Marc-Andre Barriault. We just saw what Marc-Andre Barriault has been able to do recently, right? So he's not a complete scrub in the weight class. We saw him finish Abdulrazak Al-Hassan with a submission. We saw him KO Gerald Meerschaert. We saw him finish Emendovski. This dude's dangerous, right? Remember on the Contender Series against Ozzy Diaz, the power of Joe Pyfer is different, man. I know people don't like Joe Pyfer, right? For a lot of people don't like Joe Pyfer. I see that online all the time. The bottom line is this. Kelvin Gastelum, he's 30, almost 34. He's been around for forever. You hear people talk about the wrestling of Kelvin Gastelum. When do we see it? We saw it against D-Rod, right? We saw that against Daniel Rodriguez in his most recent outing. But again, it was supposed to be at 170 pounds. This fat ass missed weight by the whole weight class. And the fight had to be up at middleweight. So he had a super, huge size advantage over Daniel Rodriguez. Kelvin Gastelum, to me, he's just too undisciplined for my liking at times when it comes, to the weight cutting and stuff when he was at welterweight. But now he's at middleweight where we've seen him have success. We saw him in that crazy war with Israel Adesanya. He's got solid boxing. He's got a granite chin. He checks a lot of boxes, but I just think that it's going to be a problem in this fight. He has not faced someone, in my opinion, that is a complete heavy hitter like Joe Pyfer, right? Robert Whittaker was able to outscore him. Jared Cannonier landed, some good shots on him, and we saw him go out there and beat Chris Curtis. Joe Pyfer hits so damn hard, man. He is the X factor when it comes to power in this weight class, and I've said it before. The first person that we're going to see crack the chin of Kelvin Gastelum is going to be Joe Pyfer. Maybe Joe Pyfer just outscores him, outdamages him, and wins a decision here. I think the power of Joe Pyfer is different, man. I was there live when this dude knocked somebody out. I think his name was Adam Atier or something like that. Hit him with a left hook. The dude, he folded like a lawn chair. The power of Pyfer, the way he generates the torque, his grappling is really good. He's training with Sean Brady and those guys. He has good wrestling. I think he has a background in wrestling. He has excellent jiu-jitsu skills as well. This is a well-rounded opponent, man, and his power, it is different. He's confident on the feet. He's confident everywhere. Give me Joe Pyfer to get this one done. I think that he has the ability to knock out Kelvin Gastelum, and if he can't get the KO, I think he outdamages him and wins on the judges' scorecards. But I really believe that Pyfer can KO Kelvin Gastelum, man. I really believe that. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we have Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. Man, I have been back and forth on this fight. I've been back on this fight ever since this got announced because I think that this is a super interesting stylistic matchup because with Kayla Harrison, it was always a matter of time for me before we got to see her in the UFC. I had been waiting and hoping that we would see her in her prime get into the UFC. It wasn't going to be one of these things where she's like Chandler or Patricio Pitbull coming over when she's 38 or something like that. She is world class when it comes to the grappling. We all know about her judo background, Olympic gold medalist. She is spectacular when she is able to get you up against the fence, incorporate those throws, get into those top positions. And the worst nightmare for Juliana Pena in this fight, the worst nightmare for anybody in this fight, is Kayla Harrison getting into half guard or full mount over top of any opponent in the UFC and WMMA period. If you are on bottom underneath Kayla Harrison, you need to be doing everything in your power to get up and get out as fast as you can because this woman has unbelievable power. Her elbows, her devastation when it comes to the ground and pound, I think it's the best in WMMA. And people talk about, Ronda Rousey, this and that. Kayla Harrison's better than Ronda Rousey. And women's MMA has advanced over the years. Ronda Rousey was a one-trick pony where we've seen, Kayla relies on, the judo to get the fight to the floor, but she is a very well-rounded grappler. She has very good submission skills. We've seen that in her career where she was able to submit Martina. She goes out there, loses to Larissa Pacheco. Pacheco's a pretty game opponent, though. I think she's someone who could do well in the UFC. Goes out there, beats Aspen Ladd by decision, makes her debut at UFC 300, subs the old Holly Holm, goes out there and beats Ketlin Vieira, which there were moments in that fight to where when Vieira started to turn it into a little bit of that grimy, gritty type of fight, we saw Kayla start to have some issues. We just saw Vieira get a W last night over Macy Chiasson. So Ketlin Vieira, she's a pretty game opponent. I think that was a good fight to prepare Kayla for what she's about to face at Juliana Pena because this is a fight that's been kind of building up, man, because what I like about Pena, she's going to talk some shit, man. She's going to talk some trash. She's going to try to fire some things up, and these two have been doing, having some back and forths. I think a lot of people are overlooking Juliana. I think that they are, and I think that there's a real shot she gets this done because she has good submission skills. She's got good jiu-jitsu. Her grappling is pretty decent, but the problem, she's not particularly great anywhere. It's just her grit, her tenacity, and her warrior-like approach that just wins her fights, man. I mean, if you go back and you watch when she got submitted by Durandamy, I see some moments in that fight. Now, granted, that was almost 5 years ago to where Kayla's going to be able to get to similar positions, and I think that's going to be a problem for Peña. But we saw her, finish Sarah. We saw her come back and pull off one of the biggest upsets in MMA, history, period, right? By finishing Amanda Nunes. Then goes out there in the rematch and gets brutalized, right? But then she goes out there and beats Raquel Pennington by split decision. A lot of people thought that the fight should have went the other way. The bottom line is this. Peña, to me, has a little bit of a striking advantage. I know Kayla Harrison, to me, she looked much improved in this fight against Ketlen Vieira on the feet. She's moving her head a little bit more, but she just seems robotic on the feet. She doesn't seem super comfortable. She's implementing some of those calf kicks. She trains an American Top Team, right? We all know that they love to incorporate the calf kicks, so she's added that into her game. Her striking has improved. We all know when it comes to the grappling, not many people are going to have success against Kayla Harrison there. This fight, to me, comes down to what happens if this turns into a dogfight. Because if it turns into a dogfight, the tides are going to turn and Juliana Pena is going to pull this off. I'm telling you right now, if this gets into one of those gritty back and forths to where Kayla cannot get the fight to the floor and get into those top positions and be dominant, there's going to be problems on the side of her, man. And again, the big asterisk here, this is going to be a 25-minute fight. We all know, even though she can make the weight class, right? This is going to be the time where she has to make 135 on the dot, not 136. This has to be 135 or below. That's going to be, we all know, we've seen her make the weight, but that's just something to factor in here. She drains herself. She is massive, right? She's yoked, right? She's absolutely yoked, right? She's strong. She's tough. Her striking has improved. But again, going 25 minutes with a dog like Juliana Pena, who we've seen do it time and time again, whether she wins or loses, we've seen Pena get dropped. We saw her get dropped in the Pennington fight. We saw her get rocked by Amanda Nunes. We saw her get beaten up by Nunes, but that's Nunes. That's Nunes. So if Nunes comes back, there's going to be the trilogy with Peña, or it's going to be, one of the biggest fights in WMMA history with Kayla Harrison. I think Kayla Harrison gets it done. I think it's going to be a decision, though. Maybe she finds a submission, can land some good ground and pound, because we know Juliana Pena, she could, get bloodied up, she could get battered around. Maybe if Harrison can get into those top positions, we know she's strong there, lets those ground and pound, lets the elbows go. Yes, Kayla could find a submission. Maybe she could stop her, with elbows or something like that. But I think the damage and the control of Kayla Harrison is going to add up. Maybe she gets a stoppage. I think Kayla Harrison wins this fight by decision. But like I said, the way that we saw Ketlen Vieira pull her into some sort of dogfight, I could definitely see Juliana Pena pulling this one off, because whenever people count out Pena, she turns it into a dogfight. She just absolutely just moves her way through the storms and seems to find a way. I could absolutely see that happening. But I think that Kayla Harrison is just a next level type of athlete. And I think she's dangerous when it comes to the submissions, when it comes to the ground and pound. I think Juliana Pena is going to get stuck underneath Kayla Harrison, and it's going to be a serious problem. But I'm going to say that it goes the full 25 minutes. We see Harrison look very dominant early. We see Pena have some moments as the fight plays out. I got Kayla Harrison getting it done, though. I think that she maybe finds a finish, but I'm going to say by decision. Last but not least, the main event between Merab Dvalishvili and Sugar Sean O'Malley. Man, you all know I can't stand Merab. I can't stand Merab. I think he's super annoying. He's cringe. I don't like his skits. I think Sean O'Malley's cringe as well, right? And I've said this for a long time. I'm a fan of the fight style of Sean O'Malley. I think that things have dialed back a little bit. It was kind of the Bo Nickal situation where the UFC is just forcing him down our throats. It's like, just stop. Just stop. You don't need to force Sean O'Malley down our throats. His personality, he's got the personality of a wet mop. Like, just slow it down, right? I feel like it's slowed down a little bit. I know that they're giving him an undeserved title shot here, but I've always said this. Sean O'Malley is one of the best strikers in the sport. He's one of the best strikers in the sport. His speed, his footwork, his fight IQ is absolutely outstanding. And this is a guy that has a very dynamic skill set when it comes to the striking. He's got devastating front kicks up the middle that we saw him hurt Merab with late in the fight, which I think is something that O'Malley's going to utilize throughout the entire fight, not get away from it like he did the first time. I think that his striking is much better than Merab's, but it's the fact that Merab has this alien-like freak pace to where he can just move forward, he can take you down, you get back up, he does it again. He's just a savage. Merab's an absolute savage. Whether you like the guy or not, he has just this crazy style that we've just never seen. We've never seen anything like Merab. What he did to Petr Yan, I still haven't forgiven him. 50-45 Petr Yan. That's still unbelievable to think about. Goes out there at the Sphere, beats Sean O'Malley to where people thought that it was some sort of dominant win, right? And when I watched it live, I'm like, wow, Merab really looked great. You go back and watch it, wasn't domination. Sean O'Malley had a lot of moments in that fight. He landed the better shots on the feet, but it was the fact that Merab was, emoting out there, throwing his hands up, woohoo, entertaining, kissing Sean on the back, and all those kinds of things. And Merab's very entertaining. I'll give him that. I think he's very entertaining. Goes out there, beats Umar Nurmagomedov. I was impressed, because I thought Umar was definitely the guy to beat him. Merab proved me wrong there. But I think Sean O'Malley, listen, I know Merab is good, and he very well could just go out there, and we've seen Merab is basically the greatest bantamweight of all time. He could just do the same thing he did the first time, maybe even more dominant than the first go-round. But I think Sean O'Malley and his team, man, are going to make some good adjustments. Tim Welch, I know he comes off as this kind of Canelo lookalike goofball type of dude. He's a good coach, man. He's a good coach. He studies film. He studies film hard. I think that they're going to make a lot of improvements coming into this. I think that the knees up the middle, uppercuts, getting to those front kicks early, relying more on the boxing, less risky shots on the feet to where you're overextending and allowing Merab to get to your hips, because that's what Merab was trying to do. Bait out that counter right hand from O'Malley to overextend, get in on him, get to his hips. That's where Merab was having a lot of success, and he was anticipating Sean trying to set him up and walk him into that right hand, just like Sean did to Aljamain Sterling, and like what he's done to a lot of guys. I think the footwork, the speed, the timing, we've seen Sean is, I know people kind of clown about this, right? He's taken, not smoking dope. He's, taking a break from social media, all these different things. I think that that's what this guy needed, right? And he's always seems like he's injured coming into these fights. So I don't know all the truth and all the facts and all those kinds of things, but I'm not worried about all that. I think if Sean O'Malley comes into this fight less afraid of what Merab is going to do and just worries about what he can do, I think Sean O'Malley can outscore Merab Dvalishvili and win a decision here. A close decision to where he lands more damage. He's active in terms of the output. He batters those front kicks to the midsection, sets up a head kick or something. I don't think knocking out Merab is the most likely thing. I thought that maybe Sean could do it the first time, but seeing what Merab has done. Yes, we saw Marlon Moraes and Cejudo land that good short hook and wobble Merab. This dude's an alien, man. He's an absolute alien. He's built different, all those types of things. And I think that there's a very good shot that he just goes out there and runs Sean O'Malley over and just shows that Merab's just that dude, man. Because he kind of is that dude right now, right? But I think stylistically, the two hardest fights in this weight class for Merab are Umar, who he beat, and then Sean O'Malley, who he beat already. But I think that in rematches, these guys have been in there with Merab. They understand what they're up against. And yes, you're not super scared about being finished by Merab, but you're worried about this guy. He's not worried about getting tired. He will continue to shoot for takedowns. He'll continue to mix things up, and he'll just keep moving forward. He doesn't get tired. And it's discouraging when you land good shots on him and he doesn't go away. But I think in this fight, Sean O'Malley is going to stick and move. He's going to land those shots from the outside. I think he's going to rely on more of a boxer's-like approach here. Footwork, movement, getting the jab going, start to bust up the face, affect the breathing of Merab Dvalishvili, swell those lips, affect his movement, sink those front kicks into the midsection. All those things will slow down the pace. They will slow down that forward pressure of Merab. I think Sean O'Malley, sure, in any O'Malley fight, there is the likelihood that he could find a knockout shot. Against Merab, I think it's going to be very hard to do. And winning a decision against Merab, that's about as hard as it gets, because this guy knows how to win a decision better than just about anybody. And that's kind of a dig, but also a compliment, right? Because this dude, he knows how to win. Merab is a winner. He knows how to get in there. It's almost like he knows exactly what the judges are looking for. A little showboating, a little bit of control time, landing enough shots on the feet. And maybe Merab comes in here and he's saying that I think he wants to strike a little bit more. I doubt it, right? And again, when he feints these level changes, it does open up the striking. And Merab kind of dictates the pace of this fight. He dictates where the fight is going to take place. But I think Sean is going to have a strong emphasis on stopping the takedowns coming into this fight. And while Merab was able to take him down, he did not control Sean for large portions of the fight. Sean was able to get back to his feet. He's got that wiry frame. I've always said that Sean is a very underrated ground game. I think that he can outscore and pick and poke his way to a strategic and smart decision win over Merab Dvalishvili. But again, going to be a very hard hill to climb because we all know how good Merab is at this point. But again, I could see this going either way. I could see Merab just run through him. I could see maybe O'Malley lands that KO shot, but I think Sean will come in with a smart approach, the knees up the middle, front kicks, getting the jab popping for all 25 minutes, discouraging Merab from entering range. And again, that's going to be hard to do because Merab doesn't strike me as the guy to really ever get discouraged. I think O'Malley has the tools. It's just he needs to stick to them for the entire duration of the fight. I think that they make the right adjustments for Sean to go out there and outscore Merab and win a decision here. So it's going to be a tough fight, but I think O'Malley can get it done. Well, like I said, the cringeness, him being forced down our throats by the UFC, can't stand it. But in terms of the skill set of Sean O'Malley, this guy, you can't deny it, man. He is an excellent fighter. I think that stylistically, he is a hard fight for Merab, while Merab is also an incredibly hard fight for everybody in this division. So if someone's going to solve the riddle, I feel like a guy like Sean O'Malley and his coach Tim Welch can do so. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments and who you all are picking. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.